Hello everyone, welcome back to Dakota's Political Circle, and today is officially the day. So this is the day after, but I still wanted to post about it. So this is the first video I'm making as Trump actually being the president. So the video I actually decided to make was just talking to you guys in depth about the all of the executive orders Trump signed on the day on the day he became president, the first day in office. And it's really interesting because he signed the most executive orders and also the most executive actions a president has ever signed in one day. So that's also pretty insane. And also, it's just crazy to think about that. It's interesting because he did 42 executive orders, which the most a president's ever done in a day. It was around 17, and that was because of Joe Biden. And the most executive actions done in a day was 10. So, and he did 200. So that is a lot of executive actions and a lot of executive orders. It really shows that America's finally in the driver's seat for once. And I'll actually be talking in depth with you about every single action, and also, just to show you, I'll be doing it on this Word document. So I have every single action. Every single order that he talked about today. Some of these are a little bit mixed, but I basically went off of this site, so don't think I'm going a little bit over how many actual orders he did. It does say 42 here, but based on the site, there is more than 42, but I'm assuming some of those are actions. But I did basically summarize them up all together, and basically put their purpose and their implications. But for certain ones that are way more highly talked about, I will pull up this website as well just to go a little bit more in depth on the orders. But just to show you right here, by the numbers, President Trump's historic first day in office, which was incredible, by the way. It was an amazing undertaking just to see how Trump just finally got inaugurated. It's just incredible. The day has finally come. But there was 42 executive orders, 115 personal actions, 200 executive actions. More than 200. Like 60 minutes of press Q&A, which is insane because Joe Biden would never take press Q&A, rarely. And then there was 3 historic speeches that happened. Like it's just awesome to see. It's awesome to see. But before I get into the actual orders themselves, I'll show you these things first. So this, I'm just going to show you some stuff that Trump said during some of the Q&As, just to show you basically that America finally has a president again. But just to show you right here, this was talking about this one. I'll actually not show you the video, but I'll actually show you the video of the next one. But basically, the reporter asked, "How confident are you, Mr. President, that you can keep the ceasefire in Gaza?" And Trump said, "I'm not confident. That's not our war. It's their war." And that's exactly what needs to be said. It's not our war at all. It's not something we should fund. It's not something. It's just like Ukraine. We shouldn't be funding Ukraine either. It's not our war. It's literally not our war. We shouldn't be going into endless wars that don't even matter to the United States. And then another one here. This one I actually will show you because there's no caption or anything. So this one's actually really cool. And you'll see exactly what he says in a second. So let me show you. You guys should be able to hear it.
President Trump, if cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
President Trump, if cartels...
So basically, Trump is labeling the cartels in an executive order as terrorist organizations, which actually make complete sense. But also, at the same time, he is also thinking about possibly using special forces. He's not leaving it out. And that's really, really interesting to see because something like that against, the cartels of Mexico can definitely show Mexico we are not dealing with people like that ever again. And it's really awesome to see that someone like President Trump will literally do anything to get that crap out of the United States at all. And then this one right here, I just wanted to bring this up just in general. So the Senate actually finally unanimously confirmed Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State, 99-0, which is really, really awesome to see. I'm very, very surprised at least not one Dem decided to vote against Marco Rubio, especially with how Marco Rubio is. But I'm very happy to see that they actually unanimously voted in favor of Marco Rubio, and hopefully all of Trump's administration gets the same treatment, but I guarantee you some of them will not. But hopefully overall Trump gets everyone in that he needs to get in, and we smoothly, get this administration rocking. Okay, but now let's get into the actual executive orders. I'm going to go through every single one just to tell you what each one's about and stuff, and then I'll go in more depth with certain ones that are bigger than others. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first one, and there's over 50 on this list, but technically there's not 50. I think some are actual actions, but I basically went off of the website itself, so don't go too crazy with me just because of that. But anyway, let's get into it. So the first executive order, and also these are not in order, I just want to mention that. These aren't in order of when he actually signed them either. But the first one, flying the flag of the United States at full staff on Inauguration Day. The purpose would ensure the U.S. flag is flown at full staff on Inauguration Day, symbolizing a new beginning of celebration. Implications, a symbolic act to unify and to start a new administration, contrasting with times, mourning, and protest, which actually makes a lot of sense, I mean, if a president like Jimmy Carter, how he ended up dying, everything basically went to half staff. But when it comes to like a new administration coming in, if something like that happened, whether it's a congressman, whether it's a president or anything like that, it's best to fly the flag at full staff, because obviously you want to have the flag at full staff for a new administration coming in, but after that day it's good to just bring it back to half staff. So I think that's a good thing to see there. And you got President Trump designates chairman and acting chairman. So these are kind of basic. So it designates interim leadership in a various government position, ensures continuity, and immediate leadership to implement administration policies from day one. So that's just an obvious thing. Third one, President Trump announces acting cabinet and cabinet level positions. So that's an obvious one that usually happens. Purpose to announce temporary leadership for key governmental roles until permanent appointments. So that's basically, appointing temporary ones until the actual cabinet gets permanently appointed. And the implications would allow for immediate policy execution, which is exactly what we need. It's just something that, already happens. Then the fourth one, President Trump announces sub-cabinet appointments. Purpose is to fill sub-cabinet necessary roles for daily operations, just kind of what I talked about before. Critical for ensuring lower level but essential functions of government are managed effectively. So that's an obvious one as well. And then there is President Trump announces cabinet and cabinet level appointments, which is also another thing as well, to officially announce and confirm leadership for Trump's administration, and the implications sets the direction for policy implication. It's just some obvious stuff here. I just wanted to bring this in because this is technically in order, even though it's just something that happens anyway. And then initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. Purpose okay, this is a big one, actually. This is a big one. It's to reverse executive orders and actions from previous administrations considered detrimental. So these are all of the 80 policies that basically Trump wanted to get rid of that were Joe Biden's. So this is a big thing to see here, because it gets rid of almost all of Joe Biden's horrible executive orders he had. So this is a big thing as well, just to tell you guys. I'm not going to show you what they're all about, because, I mean, it's mainly just Joe Biden's policies. Most of them, about gender affirming care, abortion stuff, illegal immigration, all sorts of stuff that, doesn't matter. But, I mean, doesn't matter, to us, because it already got taken away, which is a good thing. And it does aims to undo the negative policies, like I just said. That's basically what happens. It's about the environment, immigration, social issues, basically everything Joe Biden wanted to put forth, and Donald Trump took it away, which is great. That's awesome. And then the next one, addressing the cost of living crisis. This one's pretty cool. So the purpose is to tackle inflation and rising living costs through economic strategies. The implications seeks to provide economic relief, potentially through fiscal policy adjustments or direct aid. So that's also really awesome to see there. And then the next one is a hiring freeze. So the purpose is to implement a freeze of federal hiring except for critical positions. Implications aims at reducing government size and cost, but affect service delivery. So basically, they're going to be firing a lot of federal positions because they don't deem them necessary, or they just don't care for them at all. And it'll also help the size of the government as well. Doge, and I'll also get into that as well because that's one of them as well on here. I think I put it on here. I should have. If I didn't, I'll definitely bring it up. The next one, regulatory freeze pending review. The purpose to halt new regulations for review to align with the new administration's goals, which, all the past administrations that were up, to review, it's good to halt them, that they were like new that Joe Biden put through. Implications, delays, or alters new regulations impacting various sectors, including business and environment. So that's just, pushing back more Joe Biden regulations and stuff like that. Then this one's also interesting. So returning to in-person work. Purpose to mandate federal employees returning to in-person work, reversing remote work policies implemented by Joe Biden. Implications intended to restore traditional work environments, potentially affecting morale, productivity, and operational costs. It's interesting because Elon Musk talked about this in the past. He said that it's better to have workers in person because it brings up productivity, which I agree with completely. So it makes sense why Trump did end up doing that. And then the next one, ending the weaponization of the federal government. The purpose would to seize the perceived misuse of federal power for political gain. Implications could involve change in federal agency operations, aiming to reduce political bias in law enforcement and regulatory practices. Now, I don't know how they could, put that forward, but at least it's, trying to tackle it and stuff like that, because there is a lot of that in today's society. And then you have the next one, restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. The purpose would be to safeguard free speech and end any form of federal censorship. The implications might impact how social media and internet platforms manage content, potentially affecting free speech debates. So I think this is also a really good thing. If you guys watched the inauguration, all the tech giants were there. You had Mark Zuckerberg, you had Elon Musk. You also had some of the bigger giants like, Apple. When it comes to Tim Cook, he was there. So I do think, even though this is going to be implemented, I do think those types of people, especially since they went to that inauguration, I think they will definitely adhere to this policy. So I do think this policy is a good one for sure. The next one, so application of Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act to TikTok. So now this one is, just to tell you guys, this is the, I believe this is the legislation where it says the purpose is to apply legislation aimed at protecting user data for foreign-controlled apps, specifically targeting TikTok. Implications could lead to restrictions or bans on TikTok, influencing privacy, national security, and international tech relations. Now, I think this one is, if it's not, I think it's down the list, but I think this one is the one where he extends TikTok to 75 days to, look into it more and possibly buy TikTok. I think this is that one, but if not, there is another one that does mention it. I'm not sure exactly because there is a bunch of executive orders, but I'll get through it just in case. But the next one is, this one's a big one, guys. This is a big one. So, granting pardons and communication of sentences for certain offenses relating to the events at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. The purpose is to grant clemency to individuals involved in the January 6th Capitol events. Implications, highly controversial, could affect perspective of justice, law enforcement, and political accountability. So basically, this is granting pardons, not to all the January 6th, patriots, but it is more or less granting pardons to the ones that were nonviolent. Trump actually said in when he did sign this, he said it's going to be for nonviolent people, the ones that were nonviolent, and then the ones that were, a mixed bag, they're going to be looking into those more to see if they should actually be released or not. But more or less, I think about 1,500 or so actually got released, and they were released immediately. And if they were not released, they would have to be released in the morning. I believe that's how it works. But that's really awesome to see. A lot of people were falsely, said that they basically broke the law when they really didn't. It's just, a slippery slope, and it's good that Trump did it this way. So it really shows that he really gave it to the right people and didn't, give the pardon to everyone. So I think that's a good thing to do, definitely. And the next one here, putting America first in international environmental agreements. So the purpose is to prioritize U.S. interests in international environmental treaties. The implication might lead to less cooperation on the global environmental issues, focusing on national economic interests. So more or less, it's putting America first over environmental agreements. So it makes sense what that's for. This also involves, I don't know if it's down the line. I'll see it in a second. But I think this one is to the Paris Climate Accord. I think that's what it means right here. I know because I do know they said about the Paris Climate Accord. He did sign something. He did sign an order to go away from the Paris Climate Accord. I'm assuming that's what that is based on the context, but I'm not too sure. But I do know that he did sign something about that. So he is leaving the Paris Climate Accord. We are leaving it. So that's a really great thing. He did say that it would cost us possibly $1 trillion to do the Paris Climate Accord. So it's really nice to know that we're getting out of that. And then the next one, delivering emergency price relief for American families and defeating the cost of living crisis. The purpose is to provide immediate economic relief to combat the cost of living crisis. Implications could involve direct financial aid or policy changes impacting the economy and federal budget. So I think this is an awesome thing, especially for the people that are really worried about cost of living in places like Florida. You got California, you got all sorts of places like that. But you also got lots of other things, lots of other implications that the Biden administration couldn't address. So I do think this is a great advantage for Trump to put this into an executive order. Now the next one, this one's a really awesome one here. So so this is a really awesome one. So withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization. So the purpose is, to withdraw from WHO due to issues with management and perceived bias. Implications decreases U.S. involvement in global health initiatives, potentially affecting international health cooperation. But I do think it is a good thing regardless. I believe we waste about $3 billion or possibly up to, I think it's $3 billion to $10 billion a year on, being a partner to WHO. So I think it is really, really great to withdraw from it, especially since when COVID did happen, the World Health Organization truly sucked at actually getting stuff done when it came to it. So I think it is a great opportunity to get out of that agreement whatsoever. And it's really going to save us money, definitely. And then the next one, now this one's kind of confusing, but I'll still say it anyway. So this one is it's talking about the president's personnel, and the purpose is likely involves personnel changes, appointments. Is mainly just talking about the appointments and stuff. It's more or less about policy direction and the execution of executive orders. So that's just a really basic thing. Now this one's a really awesome one. So declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States. So the purpose is to declare a national emergency to expedite border security measures and secure funding. Now, implications, it could involve reallocating funds for border barriers, increasing security measures, and impacting immigration policy and U.S.-Mexico relations. So basically, Trump put something like this in before when he was president before, but it's more big now. This is more of a bigger issue now. And especially since we need more border security, especially since he's putting this through, I think this is something we definitely need. He'll most likely be allocating funds from the military to put in border security. I think that's a really great thing, especially with what's going on at the border right now. So I'm really happy about that. Now, most likely Congress is probably going to come together to bring border wall funding because during Biden's administration, they thought it was possibly a good thing to do. So I would assume that Trump can get border wall funding at some point, but I can understand why he does a national emergency as well. Especially if he wants to get funds allocated as quickly as possible. It makes a lot of sense, so I'm really, really happy about that. So the next one is holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information. So the purpose is to address perceived abuses by past officials regarding election interference and leaks. Implications could lead to legal proceedings or policy revisions affecting political accountability and public trust in government. So this would basically mean, basically leading to possible legal accountability to those that basically delved into election interference, because Mark Zuckerberg in the past actually talked to Trump saying that he was pressured by Dems to push out misinformation. So there's a lot of people out there that could really get in trouble for pushing that information to him, trying to make his site be influenced by it. So there's definitely some major interference out there, so it's good to know that Trump's putting that forward. And the next one, restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. So the purpose would be to ensure those in policy influencing roles within the government are held accountable. And it also might involve stricter oversight or changes in employment practices, potentially affecting governance and public sector morale. So not major, but it's still good to restore accountability to stuff like that, especially since it hurts our wallets as well. So I'm really glad to hear about that. And then the next one, realigning the United States Refugee Administration Program. So the purpose is to restructure and refocus the U.S. refugee program, possibly changing emissions and criteria priorities. Implications could alter refugee intake, affecting humanitarian policy, international relations, and domestic support systems. So more or less, we're going to be restructuring the refugee program, which I believe is a good thing, because I don't think we should be really harboring refugees from major countries, at least not significantly like we have been during the Biden administration. So I'm really happy about that. And then the next one, this is also a really awesome one. So unleashing American energy. The purpose is to promote domestic energy production, potentially through deregulation. Implications likely to increase fossil fuel extraction, impacting environmental policy, energy independence, and climate change initiatives. So this more or less would push more production out in the energy sector, which is exactly what we need. So I'm really excited about that, and which Joe Biden basically wanted to try to shut down completely. So that's really an awesome thing to see. Then you got clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States. So the purpose is to clarify or expand the military's role in securing U.S. borders. Implications could lead to policy changes regarding military involvement at borders, affecting civil-military relations, immigration policy, and potentially human right considerations. So basically, it means that the U.S. military can protect the southern border, especially by executive action. And more or less, Trump probably will be pushing the military to go to the southern border more often, to protect the southern border from, cartels and border crossings and stuff like that, which I believe is definitely something we need to do, and not many other things that we have been doing with the military. So I'm really happy to see stuff about that. And then this is also a really good one as well. So the America First trade policy. The purpose is to implement trade policies that prioritize U.S. interests, possibly involving tariffs or renegotiations. Implications would aim to protect domestic industries, potentially affecting international trade dynamics, domestic job markets, or consumer prices. Now, I think this one is the one where Trump will be. I believe it's waiting 90 days till I think he's pausing trade trade deals. He's pausing trade deals for the next 90 days or something like that. Like trade policy, so he can get better trade deals out of everything. Because I saw it somewhere on Twitter talking about that. I think this is the one that was specifically talking about that. I'm not too sure, but we'll know in a second when we look through. But I think that's the one that it's talking about. So we're involved more in renegotiations. So it makes sense, pausing it to a certain extent and, getting into renegotiations because we don't want to be screwed over and over again. So it makes a lot of sense. And then the next one, memorandum to resolve the backlog of security clearances for executive office of the presidential personnel. The purpose would be to streamline the security clearance process for key personnel in the executive office. Implications enhances national security by ensuring timely access to information for critical roles and potentially affecting oversight and efficiency. That's not too important, but yeah. The next one, securing our border is a purpose, a broad initiative to enhance border security through various measures. Implications seeks to reduce illegal activity across border, potentially impacting asylum policies, border communities, and international relations. So more or less pushing away asylum seekers, enhancing border security, reducing illegal activity, all stuff like that. So that's a really massive thing. The next one's protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. So this is also a really big one as well. Purpose is to reinforce the significance of U.S. citizenship, possibly through changes in the naturalization or citizenship policy. The implications could affect immigration policy, the naturalization process, and spark debate on national identity and results. So basically, Trump was stating how we don't need birthright citizenship. We're one of the few countries to have birthright citizenship. We shouldn't have it anymore. So more or less, he is pushing against it, and he's doing an executive order against it. Now, technically, it is going to get major pushback in the courts. But what Trump is expecting is it goes to the Supreme Court and they decide it for him in his favor, and which makes a lot of sense. I think it's quite possible that can actually happen, especially with a conservative majority in the Supreme Court. So I'd say that's a smart move by Trump to make it an executive order, because it's definitely going to get some pushback in the courts, but I do think it'll go to the Supreme Court in the end, and it'll be decided up there. And then the next one, practices for wind projects. It's to establish guidelines and policies for wind energy projects. Implications, influences renewable energy development, potentially affecting energy policy, environmental assessments, and green technology investments, which isn't too bad. Then the next one, this is also a really great one here. So it's declaring a national energy emergency. So the purpose would declare an energy emergency to expedite action or secure funding for energy initiatives. Implications could lead to policy changes to increase domestic energy production or address energy supply issues affecting environmental regulations and energy prices. So more or less, pumping out more energy production, make us more self-sustainable. Just, go hard on it. You know what I mean? It's just something we really, really need to do, and I'm really happy Trump is really focusing on that, especially since, gas prices have been high and all sorts of stuff like that. But next would be restoring accountability for career senior executives. I don't think this one's too important, but I'll read it anyway. So the purpose is to reintroduce or strengthen accountability for senior federal executive. The implications would affect federal employment practices, aiming for standards of performance and ethics, potentially impacting governance and public trust. So more or less, it's just accountability for more federal executives, which makes a lot of sense. It's good to have more accountability for people. So I'm really happy about that as well. So, and then there's this one. Promoting beautiful federal civic agriculture. So this one's also pretty interesting. So purpose is to promote aesthetically pleasing designs in federal architecture, favoring traditional styles. Implications, influences future federal building designs, potentially sparking debate on public spending, preservation, and architectural innovation. But at the same time, I think Trump is also putting this in because mainly he wants to bring back old architecture when it comes to like statues, when it comes to like the Civil War and the Confederacy, like bringing back Confederate monuments, all sorts of stuff like that. I believe that's also the implications when it comes to that executive order, which is also a good thing. I think preserving history and not taking it away regardless is a good thing. Even though I know for a fact that the Confederates lost the war, I still think they deserve to be at least shown up in public. I get that they lost, but it still shows the history, and it's still a good thing to show that type of stuff. And then the next one, and this one's also really, really interesting, so this is definitely going to spark a debate. So restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety. So the purpose is obviously to reinstate or expand the use of the death penalty, focusing on public safety. The implications could reignite debates on capital punishment, affecting criminal justice policy, public discourse on justice, and international relations. Now, this one would be really interesting because most likely it's going to get major blowback in courts. But if it does go up to the Supreme Court, they would end up deciding it. Now, in my opinion, I think capital punishment should be legal in every single state. Now, obviously, it should be for probably the most heinous crimes. but it should be more lenient than what it has been in the past. Usually capital punishment isn't really used that often, even in states that it is legal. I think it should be used for anyone that murders or anything like that. It just makes the most logical sense. Or, child, child predators that have done things to children. It's just not something that, they should not be alive, basically. And capital punishment is a huge issue when it comes to the courts. So I do think it is probably going to be going to the Supreme Court, which I think is a good thing considering the Supreme Court is a majority conservative. So I am glad he put that in there. And then the next one, putting people over fish, stopping radical environmentalism to provide water to Southern California. So this one is something Joe Biden didn't even do. So the purpose is to prioritize human water needs over environmental protections in Southern California. Implications might result in policy changes affecting environmental conservatism, and with environmental groups and stuff. So basically, I know why Trump did this. So he was talking about on, I think it was Truth Social or something, about how Gavin Newsom needs to push the environmental regulations away so he can get more clean water. And that's the reason they have so many wildfires, but they don't have enough resources to take care of them. So Trump is putting this in specifically because it'll prioritize water over the protections of Southern California, which is going to help California a lot and really make Gavin Newsom look like an idiot. So I'm really glad about that. And this is also a good one here as well. So the tax deal, global tax deal. So the purpose is to engage with or reaffirm commitment to the OECD's global tax deal, which involves establishing a global minimum corporate tax rate and rules on where companies are taxed. Implications aims to combat tax evasion, profit shifting by corporations. This is just more or less a normal thing, so I won't go too much into it. But let's go to the next one. So organizations of the National Security Council and subcommittees. So this one isn't too interesting either, but I will say something about it. So the purpose is to restructure or reorganize the National Security Council to align with the administration's strategic priorities, which makes sense. And the implications, it just affects how national security decisions are made. That's just basically how it works. It's just a normal thing that happens. And then the next one, reevaluating and realigning the United States foreign aid. Now this one's a big one. This one's a big one here. So the purpose, this is actually the one I was talking about. Actually, no, this is the one I was talking about. So the purpose is to review and potentially shift U.S. foreign aid to better align with national interests or policy goals. Implications could change aid distributions affecting international relations, development projects, and humanitarian efforts with a focus on strategic benefits. The one I was talking about earlier about foreign aid, this is actually the one I'm talking about. This one specifically means, I believe Trump put like a 90-day, hold on all foreign aid. That's what I was talking about specifically, foreign aid. He put in, I believe it's a 90-day hold when it comes to this executive order, and with that 90-day hold, he's going to be reevaluating all foreign aid that's being sent out, being taken in, and everything like that, just to shift around strategic, benefits when it comes to the U.S. so people don't rip us off, which I think is an incredible thing that I would think all U.S. presidents would do. But, it really sucks that not all of them do it. But the next one right here, so the temporary withdrawal of all areas on the outer continental shelf of the offshore wind leasing and review the federal government leasing and permitting practices for wind projects. The purpose would temporarily halt offshore wind leasing on the outdoor continental shelf and review federal practices for wind project development. The implications would delay renewable energy projects, affecting investment in green energy. It might be seen as a move to reassess economic benefits versus environmental impacts. So quite exactly what it said. Trump just wants to prioritize economic benefits over the environment, which makes a lot of sense, especially when you want Americans to save more in their pocket and not have to deal with the environment all the time, like the Biden administration did. Then the next one here, protecting the American people against invasion. So the purpose would be to enhance security measures against threats of invasion, which could include physical, cyber, or immigration-based related threats. Implications could involve changes in immigration policy, border security, military posture, cybersecurity, potentially impacting civil liberties and international relations, which more or less it would probably be having ICE go to different cities, trying to find illegal immigrants. That's most likely what this is about. So the American people don't have to deal with an invasion in their United States. So, it's basically about that. And then the next one here, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, global tax. This isn't too crazy. I kind of talked about it before. It's just the second one. It's to engage with reaffirmed commitment of the OEC's aimed at international tax cooperation. It's kind of the same thing as I said before about it. And then the next one, establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. This is really massive. So the purpose is to create or enhance a department focused on improving government efficiency through streamlining processes or cutting unnecessary costs. The implications could lead to significant changes in government operations affecting public sector employment, budget allocations, and service delivery. So more or less, Trump is making his own Department of Government Efficiency, but it is not going to be a permanent department. I believe they said in 2026 it's going to dissolve because Elon Musk is going to be heading it. He's going to be taking away all of the sectors that don't matter, the budgets that really don't matter, just trying to save Americans money. That's basically what he's trying to do. I think Elon Musk said he wants to have a goal at about a couple $1 trillion. I think he said like $1 trillion or $3 trillion or so to cut by 2026, which would be massive. That would be very, very massive to see, but we'll have to wait and see. But he said by 2026 it'll be dissolved. So this is just a temporary thing till 2026. So I'm really hoping that the Department of Government Efficiency actually does end up working the way it does. And if it does, it would be basically one of the best departments that were ever made, even though it was made for temporary. But let's go to the next one. So the next one is the American First Policy Directive to the Secretary of State. The purpose is to direct the Secretary of State to prioritize U.S. interests in foreign policy, potentially altering diplomatic engagements, and it also might shift U.S. foreign policy towards isolationism, protectionism, affecting international alliances, which honestly, I think protectionism is a great thing for the United States. The next one would be protecting the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. The purpose would be to enhance measures against threats from foreign terrorism, focusing on national security and public safety. The implications could involve tightening immigration controls, enhancing surveillance, increasing international cooperation on counterterrorism, impacting civil rights and security protocol. That's definitely a massive thing we definitely need, especially when it comes to the cartels and foreign terrorists as well, like many in the Middle East. So I'm really glad we're focusing on that as well. This is also a really big one here. This is a massive one to see. And I know it's going to get some blowback as well, but hopefully the Supreme Court takes care of it. But it says unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential. So the purpose would be to exploit Alaska's natural resources for economic benefit, possibly focusing on oil, gas, and minerals. The implications could lead to environmental concerns, changes in land use policy, economic development in Alaska, and the effect of indigenous rights and conservation efforts. But that's the reason I think this will get a lot of blowback. I think it'll get a lot of court blowback, but I do think the Supreme Court will decide it in the end, and hopefully they decide the right way, because in the end it would definitely help the U.S. Dramatically when you get those natural resources that we really, really need. And then the next one, organizations and specially designated global terrorists. Purpose to designate certain organizations as global terrorists, impacting how the U.S. deals with entities. And I don't have to say the implications, you kind of know what it is. But I know what this is specifically about. It's about the cartels. Trump wanted to specifically designate them as a global terrorist organization when it comes to the Mexican cartels. So I think that is a massive undertaking that should have been done a long time ago. So I'm really happy about that. And the next one, reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service. So the purpose would be to overhaul the federal hiring process to emphasize merit-based selection over other criteria, which I think is really, really great. So implications could impact diversity, equity, inclusion efforts within the government agency, aiming for efficiency, but potentially affecting workplace diversity. Which honestly, who cares about that? It's more or less about bringing in the best of the best, and not about the diverse of the diverse. But okay, the next one, but I do think that's an awesome executive order he put through. which is exactly what we need. The next one would be ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. The purpose will be to terminate or reduce, the DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And the implications might significantly alter federal workforce diversity and reducing funding or support for DEI, which I think is incredible. I think that's exactly what we need. DEI is probably one of the most dumbest things that were ever made. In my opinion, I think it's a really racist thing to have because it really makes it racist towards people of, white people as well. Because, diversity is more about the minorities. And when it comes to DEI, they focus on them only. So, but they prioritize them. So I don't think that's a good thing, and I'm really glad it's going against it. And I've heard many companies are getting rid of their DEI initiatives and their DEI, policies because of Trump being in office, which I think is incredible. Now, the next thing would be defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. The purpose would be to address gender ideology within federal policy, aiming to uphold traditional views of biological sex. The implications could lead to policy changes affecting transgender rights in the federal employment, healthcare, education, civil rights, and legal debate. But basically, this would more or less say the federal government recognizes male and female and nothing else. That's exactly what this means. So the federal government during Trump's administration, no matter what, would recognize, males as males, females as females, and if you're transgender, you have to do what's based on your biological sex. That's basically how it would work. And then the next one, guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion. The purpose would be to ensure that they have protection against invasion of illegal immigrants. Basically what I said before, but this would involve federal support for state national guards and all sorts of stuff like that. More or less, it basically protects states from invasion. So the National Guard could be put out to go to certain cities where illegal immigration is active, all sorts of stuff like that, which is exactly what we need. And then the next one, restoring, actually, no, this is the one I was talking about earlier. So restoring names that honor American greatness. So the purpose to restore and rename federal properties or programs to reflect historical figures or events seen as honoring American greatness. Implications could reignite discussions on historical representation, national identity, and cultural sensitivity. So more or less, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is about like Confederate statues. You got like certain names like Mountain McKinley. Lots of bases that were changed names because their implication names came with slave owners, or it came with past controversies. But I do think this is a good thing to bring back because I think history is history no matter what. No matter what the history is, I think it still should be shown. As long as it isn't horrible, I think the history should be shown no matter what. Just like Robert E. Lee, I think Robert E. Lee should definitely be shown as a statue somewhere in certain states he's known for. But at the same time, I don't have a problem with people from the Union or certain figures like MLK and stuff like that. It's just good and bad, mixed people that are mixed with how they were back then. As long as it's a historical figure, I think it should never be taken down. So I'm really happy Trump wanted to put this through. And then the last one here, this is the last one. Now, actually, this I think the last one is the same as this one. So this one is designating the cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specifically designated global terrorists. So that one I talked about before, it's technically like this, but it's similar, but it's not the same. So it's similar to what the one before I talked about, but it's not the exact same. This one's more or less specifically talking about the cartels. The other one was talking about designated global terrorists. That basically it's just two executive orders that go hand in hand in a way. So the purpose is to designate the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and then implications would increase legal measures against these groups, potentially military action, and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think that's also a really great thing. So those are all of Trump's executive actions. I think there might have been a couple there might have been a couple. I mean, no, well, president. These are the executive orders, is what I'm saying. But there might be a couple actions in there that are orders. I'm not too sure. I just go based off what's on this site because it does say presidential actions, but I know a lot of these are orders, so it doesn't really specifically say. But I do hope you guys enjoyed that. I just want to tell you about all the orders that Trump did on day one, which I give him, an A+ for all of them, because all of them are great things that he put forth, and it's more than any other president has done in one day. Just like I said, there's not been a single president that has done more than 17 in one day, and he did over 40, so that's really awesome. And then you see the executive actions. Like, it's just incredible to see how much Trump actually really did on his first day in office. And there's just so much more coming. Like, for example, on February 1st, he's most likely going to be implementing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So there's just a lot of stuff coming forward. It's going to be really awesome to see how much actually gets done during this administration. And I can't wait to tell you guys all about it when it ends up happening. It's going to be really awesome. I'll definitely do some upcoming videos when, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Pete Hegseth all get put in. I'll definitely make a video on those people because they're the most, I wouldn't say controversial, but they're the ones that are like, the closest to actually passing. So they're more important to talk about than others that are just easily going to pass, like Marco Rubio just passed. But I still wanted to bring it up, because it happened. But anyway, guys, I really wanted to talk to you guys about that today. I know some people might find this video a little bit boring, but I do think it's cool to talk about executive orders in depth, especially when you do so much on day one. I think that's really important no matter what. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not sure when my next video will be out, but hopefully it's sometime soon, because I'll guaranteed if Trump brings something up that's very important, I would definitely be posting a video about it when I have the chance, guaranteed. And most likely from what Trump's been saying and everything like that, the first week of his presidency, or at least the first 100 days, are going to be very, very exciting from what I can tell. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, watch my tier list that I made before on Trump's cabinet picks. I'm going to put that at the end of this video because that was a hard video to make. This one also was pretty hard to make as well, especially given that I had to make it within like a day. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Let me know, what's your favorite executive order that Trump put forth today. And also let me know, how well is Trump, how well of a job has Trump done so far, even though it's only been one day. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.